house. Lake. We finally made it, guys. All you guys east of here, hold on tight, because all these winds are heading your way. It's cold. Well, it's cold because it's windy, and it's been raining like hell. It's been raining sideways. Oh, there's Lake Hartwell, my house. Finally made it. There's another lake right there. I miss driving my truck. Sat in it the other day and make vroom vroom noises. I like my truck. Somebody come drive Tiny. I got people that are applying, but man, got one good guy. Just need another one to make a team. But I think it's just the holidays. People are, in the holiday spirit. Both awesome trucks, but I miss driving this guy. I mean, what's not to love? Oh, great, somebody left my door open. I probably know who that was. Look at that hood. I miss it. I miss it. I miss my crack window. I miss my low back seats. I miss my narrow cab. I do like the fuel mileage though. It's tiny. But yeah. 3 things I hate about the 579. And some things I like. Let's begin. Ooh. Not that. That is, we bought this truck. Somebody came and stole this thing from the dealership lot. And I've been waiting for TLG to send me a new one because they said they would, and I still haven't got it. So, anyway, like my scrunchie here. Things I hate. Let's get started. So, I think the biggest pet peeve with this truck, probably 2, and they're both probably about equally as bad, is, the first one I'll get into, and I'll tell you guys why, and I'll show you in a second, from the driver's point of view, is the 4-way hazard switch. The 4-way switch, your blinkers. It's in a very bad spot. It's underneath the steering wheel, and you can't see it, so you got to go reaching down there for it and trying to figure out what the hell it is. So I'll show you that now. So obviously you're sitting here, and you're driving, and if you want to think someone over or something like that, because you got a trailer that doesn't, this will, blink the lights, but some of the older Receiva trailers don't, and you're sitting there cruising, and you want to thank the guy, and it's nighttime, you're fumbling around back there. Ugh. It is way down here, so you got to kind of feel down for it and everything. Really bad spot, actually. Kind of a bad spot. So yeah, that's my probably biggest pet peeve driving in the middle of the night. Number 2, which I guess you could flip-flop those around however you want because they're both equally as annoying. So my number 2 biggest issue with these trucks is the headlights absolutely suck. And you guys that drive them know what I'm talking about. The halogen lights. I have not driven on with the HIDs because they come with an HID light also, but those are, I don't know if a lot of people spec those anymore because I think those are really expensive, and when they go out, they're kind of a harder, are they a harder bulb to find? I would imagine so. It's probably dealer only. Anyway, the stock halogen lights in these trucks are absolutely crap. They are terrible. They are projector halogen, and the bulbs themselves are not powerful enough to project the lights. So now when we bought this truck, it came with, what's it called, LEDs. Now, they were really cheap old LEDs. The previous company of this truck, I guess they were called Coke, out of North Carolina. It was either the driver or they bought the cheapest bulbs they could possibly find. And the chips that are in those LEDs were in a totally bad spot compared to like the stock filament length on the bulb. So they didn't project the light whatsoever. They were just really weak. And especially driving at night when it was wet, obviously you're going to use them at night. But when the road's wet, you might as well not even have your lights on almost. They were almost like ineffective. Nothing there. So I replaced the bulbs with some Farron LEDs. They're 12,000 lumens. I aimed the lights pretty good, and that have seemed to stop that problem for now. They are pretty good. Now, we haven't really driven the truck since I've done that because the bulbs showed up last week, and I popped them in last week, and obviously we've been off, so I haven't driven it. But I did drive it down the road, and I did film some footage for you guys here. Well, I can deal with that. Those are the bulbs that I put in this truck. Adjusted properly. Now I can at least see where I'm going. They're pretty strong, 12,000 lumens. You got a truck like this and your headlights suck, go ahead and get them. They're the Farron H1. I'll have to put a link down in the description because they're the Farron lights for these trucks. They're the low beams. I also have their high beams, but I think I'm going to put the regular bulbs back in because, as you can see, they're kind of So, yeah. Your headlights suck? Get some of these. These are for the non-halogen. I'm sorry, for the halogen bulb, for the halogen lights, not the HIDs. So these are just straight up LEDs. Plug and play, work great. I can finally see and I love it. Much better. They are much better. They are like night and day difference. So I hope that helps because the lights in Fancy, which are sealed beam LEDs that we put in, blew this truck out of the water. So for 2020, I was kind of disappointed with that because I figure, you know, a newer generation truck, it should have pretty good headlights, but nope. So yeah, I hated that. I hated the lights in it. But again, we fixed that. Now the four-way switch, probably can't really fix that. Maybe I can move it up in a different spot, but hey, it's whatever. Doesn't bother me all that much, I guess. I mean, it bothers me enough to complain about it, but it doesn't bother me enough to where I can't get used to it. The headlights, on the other hand, there's no getting used to not being able to see at night. So safety is a priority. We actually, when we used to work at FedEx, we had a pretty bad accident at night because the Freightliners that were spec'd for us were with halogen bulbs, and they were terrible. They were terrible. They skimped on the lighting, and unfortunately, it was a pretty bad accident. So I feel personally that forward lighting at night, especially in adverse conditions, is your best friend. Because if you can't see, you don't know what you're doing. Let's be honest. I mean, you're downright dangerous then. So, yeah. Upgrade your bulbs if you have one of these. We'll put a link in the description to these. They're pretty good lights. Yes, that guy. That guy is my number 3. That ginormous windshield is huge. Now, Alice and I, we like to sit cool in our stool with no air in the seat all the way down to the floor. Because these windows, hey Fancy, how you doing, boy? They're also pretty big, but they're not as bad as a Volvo. Where with the Volvo, your leg is right, like your window's down here, even if you're sitting on the floor. So this isn't too bad. Yes, get window chops. Maybe. But these don't really do much when the sun's in your face when you're heading west. So that's my other complaint with this truck. The windshield is so damn big that you're always getting blinded by the sun. And it's going to get, it's going to get better because the days are going to get longer and stuff like that. But that's my other biggest complaint with this truck. Is just this ginormous windscreen, and you're constantly getting blinded by the sun when you're heading west. There's really no way around it, because this only works for about 5 minutes, and then that sun's like way down there and blinding the crap out of you, and then you're going up and down the hills and it's blinding the crap out of you some more and stuff like that. But again, if you put air in your seat, shouldn't be a problem, right? Now, I find this truck very comfortable to drive with no air in the seat, so that's kind of how I like to roll. And same with Alice. So if I'm nitpicking this truck, why did we buy it? Well, you guys know why we bought it. We bought it for the fuel mileage. You're always going to have something you're not going to like about a truck. Don't care what you're driving, there's always going to be something there that's going to annoy you. Like with Fancy, I'm sure I could find a handful of things, although I love them to death, but so I can't really talk crap about them right now. But if I thought about it long and hard, I'm sure I could tell you. I like this truck other than those 3 things. I really do. Would I buy another one? The suspense. Yes. Would I buy it over a Volvo or a Cascadia? Yes. Of course. My God, yes. And I'm not trying to clown on those other trucks, but I'm not. By all means, I'm not. Everybody has their personal preference. They're great trucks. They are great trucks. But I feel that the PACCAR quality definitely shows over a Freightliner and definitely over the Volvos. Now, I have not driven the newest generation of Volvos with the newer dash and all that stuff. But from my experience in the older Volvos, there's a lot of squeaks and rattles, and a lot of electrical gremlins, and a lot of air leaks. We used to get new ones from the factory that had 0 miles on them, park them overnight, and you come back in the morning and they were almost sitting on the bump stops because there's no air in it. They just leak air. My personal opinion and experience with Volvo is they run the electrical and the air lines along the frame rail so tight that there's hardly any slack in it, and that's where you get a lot of your electrical gremlins, because those wires are pulling against the connectors. And then you got the airlines that are doing the same thing. There's at least the ones that I've experienced, that's the main reason. Like the airlines were super tight. And other than that, I mean, they weren't bad trucks. They're comfortable driving trucks. They are great. The iShift is a great shifting transmission. If I'm going to compare this Endurant to the iShift, the iShift's probably a crisper transmission, a faster shifting transmission. Although I've never experienced anything bad with this one yet. I'm not going to comment about durability with the Endurant because I haven't had it long enough to know if it's going to make it 1,000,000 miles. I do have friends that have way over 1,000,000 miles on them, and they've ran multiple of these in their operation. And the iShift, I've always experienced that about, well, 650,000, it's due. And I'm sure there's some out there that are, they've went a lot further and they've got more miles out of them, but that's my experience with the iShift. Now the DT12, unless the newer one's done something different with these Gen 5 DD15s and DD13s, you can't compare it. It's such a sloppy shifting transmission. It's such a slow shifting transmission, even compared to the Endurant, that it's not. The Endurant, in my opinion, is a better transmission. I also know that from my experience, the clutch in this truck was replaced, okay, before we bought it. And I have the receipts for it. And with the actuator and the clutch, the whole job, I want to say was around $4,400. I think the last time we put a clutch in the DT12 Freightliner, it was almost $9,000. So it's very pricey, because I think these still use a typical twin disc Eaton Fuller 15.5-inch clutch, where the other ones, you take some specific clutch. And then you got to program and all that stuff, which with this you have to program too, because you have to calibrate the actuator. But I don't know, it's much cheaper. So from an owner-operator's perspective, if you want, obviously you don't want to spend a lot of money. So I would say that the Endurant's a win in that department over the iShift and the DT12. iShift is as equally as expensive as the DT12, unless the prices have changed since 2 years ago. But that's what we were paying. I think the PACCAR quality is there. I think it's a great built truck. I think you're going to get more value if you spec a Ultraloft that's more of an owner-operator spec truck. There's not as many of them out there versus Cascadias and Volvos, so I feel that resale might be easier. It might be, it's always going to be better because it's a Peterbilt. And it's all around a great truck. I have not had any complaints about it. It stays warm in here. It stays quiet in here. It stays very comfortable in here. Now, I will tell you that cabinet, if your tires aren't balanced, like the ones that we bought the truck with, I don't think anybody balanced these steers or anything. So it needs done. I haven't had time. I'm probably going to do it next week when we get home. That cabinet gets to rattling sometimes, but that is literally the only thing. It's not that bad. It stops, and it's tire related. It's not the truck. It's tire related. Other than that, it's been a pretty good truck. It's an efficient truck. It's a very easy to service truck. The gear train on the X15s. Why did I go X15? Why did I go X15? Well, this is the main reason why I went X15. It's easier to work on. And it's probably more reliable than the PACCAR. I'm not going to dog on the PACCAR, but PACCARs are a lot harder to work on. The whole Davy thing, and I know they get better mileage. I will agree with you guys, 100% they get better mileage, but the PACCAR is a cabover engine. Let's face it. The gear train is at the back of the motor. How many camshafts and lifter failures have you guys seen with those? I've seen a lot. Well, what do you have to do it? The cam in the PACCAR. Guess what? Well, you either got to pull the cab or you got to pull the motor. What are you going to do? You're going to have to pull the motor, because the camshaft has to come out the back of the motor. Same thing with the compressor. Same thing with the high pressure pump. Everything is mounted at the back of the motor. So when it's stuffed in the back, it's a lot harder to work on. So that being said, I have all the Cummins software. I rather deal with the Cummins than a PACCAR. I almost bought a PACCAR a long time ago, but it left me stranded on a test drive. So that was my clue not to get one. Yes, it literally, I was driving down the road and the engine's so quiet, I didn't realize it just turned off. So that's why I didn't buy it. My friend runs PACCARs. He has great luck with them. He loves them. He can get great mileage with it. And I 100% agree. Like in our operation, it probably would get a lot better mileage than this X15, but I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to work on it. I guess I can rely on warranty, but warranty's not going to do preventive maintenance. And filters are expensive, all that stuff, didn't want to pack. That's the main reason why we went X15, because it's like way easier to work on and the mileage ain't that bad. So my biggest thing about this truck that I really like is obviously the space. For a team operation, it is a great truck. It is super easy to drive. It is very comfortable. Everything is at your fingertips other than that four-way flasher switch. The refrigerator is nice and big. The beds are comfortable. They're big. You got all the room in the world to move around in it. And it's a very simple truck to put an ELD in. It's the electronics are right there, easily diagnosable. Your fuse boxes, everything. One other thing to watch out for with these trucks, I guess, is the fairings. I guess there was a recall for the side fairings that cover the tanks. The way the hangers are designed, they fail fairly easily, and mine are kind of, I fixed them up and I martined them so they're fine, because there's a bushing that was missing, so I kind of made my own, because Peterbilt didn't have one in stock, but I think I maybe fixed it better than they would have fixed it from the factory, because the way the hangers are designed on these, it's like this pipe that runs across the very top of the fairing, and it's got these bushings, and that pipe wears out. And that's where they'll fail. So you got to be careful with that. If you're buying one of them, look at that. Because I know some of them have the recall, but for some reason, this truck does not. I don't know if it's because it's too new or what, but I would imagine that most of them would, and this one does not. So look at the fairings. But other than that, they're great trucks. Very easy to, very owner-operator friendly, in my opinion. They're very easy to service. They're driver friendly. They're very comfortable. And they look good. I mean, for an aerodynamic truck, you could make them look pretty good. Just put some lights on it, some quarter fenders, and they look good, because it's still a Peterbilt. Not saying you can't make a Cascadia look good or a Volvo look good. They look great too, but it's just whatever you're into. I like all this room in this truck. I think that this is an 80-inch sleeper, so it's slightly bigger than the Freightliner at 75 inches. I think you got a lot more standing room here too, because it's just the way the Peterbilt sleeper is designed. It's got like this hump, and there's a little bit more room in it. So yeah, they're pretty good trucks. Like I said, if I were to run a major huge fleet, I would I would definitely buy these. They are great. They were, I mean, I don't have to beat a dead horse. They're great trucks. And they're efficient. That's what it comes down to. Fuel mileage. You get fuel mileage, you're going to make money. And keep the truck out of a shop, you're going to make money. And that's the whole objective here, making money. I do miss my manual. Just for those guys wondering, I do miss it. I miss my Kenworth, I miss my hood. And we'll be back driving that truck pretty soon here. Just got to get someone driving this guy, and we're going to get going on that after the New Year's. So it's almost the New Year's. That bed is so much taller than this one that you don't have to worry about banging your head on it when you get up. Got a cool spot for your microwave there too. Fuel caps that Alice can open. Because on a Peterbilt, that's all you do.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.